in Google search results was this ugly rumor. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, and it's really important because early on this year, a film came out on the Lifetime Network called Betty and Coretta. Some of us probably watched that movie, Betty and Coretta, and the great Mary J. Blige and Angela Bassett. I mean, it was a great cast, and you know, I was blessed to be with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan the week that that film came out, and to discuss with him, you know, how we should respond as a research group, how we should respond as the Nation of Islam to what was really a slander, really libelous, you know, to put in the film and in the mouth of Betty Shabazz that Farrakhan had something to do with my husband's murder. And so I could say, you know, before I get into the argumentation, that the minister wasn't even concerned about how this film would make him appear. He was concerned about Mary J. Blige.
That's right.
From the very beginning, he said that I have to get to my sister and we have to respond because I don't want people to think that me and Mary are at odds with each other, and now someone out here who loves me go out and do some harm to Mary.
Right.
Because Mary J. Blige is like a daughter to Minister Farrakhan.
That's right.
Great respect for Minister Farrakhan. Coming out of New York, I mean, if you grew up in New York City in the 70s and 80s, you know, you grew up when Minister Farrakhan was like, you know, the man in New York City. So it's very difficult for you to grow up in that area at that time period and not have great love and respect for the minister. So the minister, he got on a plane and went to Los Angeles. I think Mary J. was out there for one of the awards programs, and they met and they issued a statement. And the potential of violence or confusion and chaos was the verdict. But yet, this ugly rumor persists in many different circles. In some places, in schools and in correctional institutions, you have the autobiography of Malcolm X that becomes required reading. It's a great book. And many young brothers began to look up to Brother Malcolm, begin to identify with his struggle.
Open our minds, brother.
And so, you know, to say that Minister Farrakhan now killed Malcolm is to suggest that you, if you love Malcolm, you got to be against Minister Farrakhan.
Right.
Thusly inspiring maybe some young, unwitting brother or sister to want to do harm to the minister. When really it's wonderful to love Brother Malcolm. We love Brother Malcolm. We disagreed with how he concluded his life, but none of us could be honest and say that in the 12 years when he was a representative of the Nation of Islam, that he did not do a work that at that time was unmatched. Malcolm traveled all over the country establishing temples for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And truth be told, it has been subsequently proven that Malcolm was writing letters to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad seeking re-entry into the Nation of Islam. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had been telling all of his fathers, leave Brother Malcolm alone, because he believed that Malcolm would one day return. So first of all, let's just deal with the facts. There were 3 people who were arrested. That's first thing for Brother Malcolm's murder. This man right here is Talmadge Hayer, also known as Thomas Hagen. He served 45 years in prison, recently released. He admitted that he killed Malcolm X. Also, what is unique about Mr. Hagen is that in the late 70s, he went before William Kunstler, who was a famous civil rights attorney, and he filled out an affidavit. And he listed all of those who participated with him in the assassination. And the reason that he did it was because There were two other men who were arrested who were members of the Nation of Islam, and these brothers were completely innocent. And Hagen wanted to set the record straight that, yeah, I did it. But these two brothers that y'all got locked up, they did not do it. But this is the admitted killer, and he listed in his affidavit, which we have, that all of the other people who are involved with him, there were 5 persons. But check this out. After Hagen did his affidavit, the FBI and the government never pursued those other names that he had listed. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, yeah.
As Arsenio used to say, things that make you go, Why did they not go after the other people who he had listed? Now, if you and I, brothers, sometimes we go before, you know, the police and whatnot, we get ourselves into trouble. They say, well, okay, you did it. Who else was with you?
Yeah, they get everybody.
And then, you know, as they had the campaign in New York, Stop Snitching, right?
Yeah.
Because they say, well, you go down by yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, but the police oftentimes want to know everybody who was with you so that they can go and arrest them also.
Right.
Why did not they do this in the case of the murder of Malcolm X, an icon in the struggle of our people?
Right.
These other 2 persons that were arrested, this brother right here was Norman 3X Butler, who later became Muhammad Abdul Aziz. He served 20 years in prison, but he was innocent.
Right. Right.
This was Thomas 15X Johnson. He served 26 years in prison. He was innocent. Now, I mentioned yesterday that a lot of this information, you know, you can read if you want further study. I'm encapsulating a lot. I'm hopefully shortcutting some reading for you, but there's some who want more, who want to study and get more deep into it. I certainly would encourage you that if you don't have this book called The COINTELPRO Papers by Ward Churchill and Jim Vanderwall, that you should purchase it, because they got access to FBI files through the Freedom of Information Act. And a lot of what they have has not been released yet, but some of it has. And that which has been released is very damaging to the government, depicting our own government that we pay our taxes to, that we put our hand over our heart and say the pledge. But we never would believe that our own government that goes all over the world seeking to promote democracy and the will of the people will be involved in destroying black organizations in America.
Right. Right.
There is a great documentary on the birth and the evolution of gangs in Los Angeles. It's called Bastards of the Party. I'd also recommend you watch it. It's very excellent. Any of you that work with young brothers, work with the street organizations, there's an excellent history. And I remember in that documentary there was a brother who said that he was a part of the Black Panther Party. And he said that, you know, they never believed that the FBI, the most powerful investigative body in the world, rivaling the KGB of Russia, rivaling MI5, MI6 in England, would be interested in young black males organizing themselves to improve their lives and protect their communities in South Central Los Angeles. He said he couldn't believe it. He couldn't wrap, and once he found out that their internal problems had been developed and fomented at the hands of infiltration by the FBI, said it blew his mind. Because he's just looking at, okay, this is like a local thing. We're trying to do what we're trying to do. We believe in self-defense, and we're trying to feed our children and educate our children, respect our women. And yet they were infiltrated because, again, Hoover understood something of prophecy.
Go ahead.
And he went after every group, every leader who had the potential to be a Messiah that would unite all of us.
Right.
In Churchill and Vanderwall's book, This is a memo that you can find on. Now, again, the myth is that Farrakhan had something to do with killing Malcolm X. I've already shown you that there were 3 people arrested. None of them were Minister Farrakhan.
That's right. Go ahead.
I've shown you that one of them admitted it and listed the other people that were with him, but they were never sought by the authorities. Now I'm showing you that the FBI in this memo takes credit for Malcolm's assassination, for creating all of the internal division. They take credit for separating Malcolm from his teacher. Let's look at just a little bit of it. It says, by the point of Malcolm's assassination during a speech in Harlem on the night of February 14, 1965, the FBI had compiled at least 2,300 pages of material on Malcolm in just one of its files on him, the Nation of Islam and his organization, the OAAU. Malcolm X was supposedly, according to what folks say, murdered by former colleagues in the Nation of Islam as a result of internal fighting or faction fighting, which had led to his splitting away from that movement and their natural wrath at his establishment of a competing entity. However, the authors say, as the accompanying January 22nd, 1969 memo from the special agent in charge in Chicago to the director, who was Hoover, it makes it clear that the Nation of Islam factionalism at issue didn't just happen.
Go ahead.
It didn't just happen that Malcolm and Elijah Muhammad fall out with each other. That Malcolm and the Nation fall out with each other. It didn't just happen. Rather, it had been developed by deliberate bureau actions through infiltration and the sparking of acrimonious debates within the organization, rumor mongering, and other tactics designed to foster internal disputes, which were always the standard fare of COINTEL. The Chicago special agent in charge, Marlon Johnson, who would shortly oversee the assassination of Illinois Black Panther Party leader Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, makes it quite obvious that he views the murder of Malcolm X as something of a model for successful counterintelligence operations.
Wow.
So they killed Brother Malcolm, and in the murder of Brother Malcolm, they developed the model way to take out black leaders. Let's just let that sink in for a moment. Malcolm was the prototype. Wow. Then they said, okay, well now this is how we do it. Then they went and used it to kill Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. Boys, young men that were murdered in cold blood by our government. So when you hear Mr. Farrakhan kill Malcolm X again, you won't have to stumble and stammer and say, well, no, he didn't, and leave it at that.
You know,
You can be armed with the facts.
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Because that's what we want to deal with facts. Not speculation, not emotion, not what somebody said or I heard somebody say. I pray that Brother Michael will make this available, that you can get this and take it with you and study it.
Yes, sir.
And have it on your person and share it and give it to other people. Because these become critical facts in an hour when Minister Farrakhan exists alone on top the pile of black leadership.
Come on.
You know, I know this morning you got a lot of talking heads about the verdict last night of Trayvon and Zimmerman when Zimmerman was found not guilty. But know and believe, none of those that are the talking heads that's on the news programs this morning on the equal level of the Honorable Minister Lewis Farrakhan.
That's right.
And that's not just me saying it because I'm with Minister Farrakhan.
That's right.
You were here yesterday. We proved with empirical data the fact that Minister Farrakhan is the epitome and is peerless
That's right.
in that class.
That's right. That's right.
This is a man that asked for 1 million men to come to Washington, D.C. on a Monday, a work day and a school day, to pay their own way.
Right.
And almost 2 million showed up.
Right.
He was a Muslim, and 80% of those that showed up were Christian. Who is that man?
Right. Right. Fearless.
The Bible says that of the people of Christ, that my sheep know my voice.
Right.
So apparently those 80% of Christian men heard the voice of their Lord coming in the call of the Honorable
That's
Minister.
right.
All praises due to Allah.
That's right.
I think we read all of this part.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that's at the root of this false myth about the minister and the nation killing Brother Malcolm is this idea that the nation is this violent, radical, wild-eyed group that is seeking to have a violent overthrow of the government. But I want to read to you a passage from a professor. This is Professor Martha F. Lee. She writes that in many ways, then, the Nation of Islam provides a case study of why and how a religious movement with a radical belief system did not engage in violence related to its doctrine. Indeed, the most notable act of violence in its history, the assassination of Malcolm X, appears to have been linked to the very secular and common problems of political jealousy, and even, she says, perhaps fostered by government agents. During much of its almost 100-year history, the Nation of Islam has not been a particularly likable movement. Its leaders and membership have often engaged in racist and anti-Semitic language, and their criticism of the American state have sometimes challenged American self-understanding in uncomfortable ways. Okay, we'll take that. The movement's doctrine and history, however, suggests that the Nation of Islam was not particularly concerned with a violent overthrow of the American state. Its members waited in faith for Allah to destroy the forces that oppressed them. Instead, it was law enforcement agencies that more actively fostered violence in the hope of destroying the Nation of Islam. Now, we didn't pay Professor Lee to say that. This is, as we said yesterday, her speaking the truth as she knows it.
Right.
But that is a major point in the history of Minister Farrakhan. There have been numerous events in the history of Minister Farrakhan where he could have retaliated in some kind of violent way. When Reverend Jackson repudiated him, when Dr. Collins went off the DP, and when Bobby White wrote his ugly book about the nation. And I mean, the list goes on and on. As we talked about yesterday, Minister Farrakhan has always resisted the urge to retaliate. He's always seen the bigger picture and been willing to suffer indignity, have been willing to suffer him helping people. I mean, think about the repudiation of Reverend Jackson for a moment. When Jesse was running for president, that's a dangerous job. And at that time, unless you were the president, you didn't get any Secret Service protection. Minister Farrakhan sent these brothers, the fruit of Islam, the men of the nation, to secure Reverend Jesse Jackson as he campaigned for the office of the president. These brothers, you know, the Secret Service, they are armed. We are unarmed. When you see us providing security, our weapon is our life. We are there putting our life in a position to be taken for the one that we are securing and the cause that they represent.
Right.
So the minister put his followers' life in harm's way. Men who were fathers and husbands with children and families to secure Reverend Jackson for no pay. Then after the media began to distribute the image on the news media of Reverend Jackson being secured by these brothers in suits and bow ties, and that image began to inspire young people around the country, the government had a change of heart and said, well, Reverend Jackson, we'll provide you with some Secret Service protection.
Right.
Because the potential of that image
Yes.
inspiring young men
Yes.
to value the life of black leaders,
Yes.
inspiring young men to give up thug life and gang life and put on a suit and that they could get into politics or religion or civic affairs. They didn't want that image out in the public. So now today, as a result, even candidates get Secret Service protection. But the minister, when he was repudiated, they came and they asked him, said, Farrakhan, Reverend Jackson just repudiated you. What do you think? He said, I think every black man, woman, and child in America should vote for Reverend Jackson. Come on.